happy Wednesday to you. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Behind me is my little piece of England. I don't know if you can see that, but I've built a little area on one side of our house which feels like England. It's got lots of plants that are English plants, very shady. It's got ivy and all sorts of good things, so it's my little piece of England. So this is my talk from Utah in my little piece of England. I'm going to talk about where the wind's blowing in geospatial. It's kind of a topic I like to talk about, but I really want to reinforce it in this talk. I think if there's anything that I look back on my career as being something that I've been good at seeing where the wind's blowing. I started building GIS web applications in the mid-90s, so when the internet was really at an early stage, because I knew that was going to be a very big deal. I also set up web map solutions around 2009 when the first iPad came out, because I knew that mobile computing was going to be a big deal. So I've got a reasonably good track record in terms of looking ahead, and I think we're now in a really interesting place. And my career path has reflected where I feel like the wind's blowing. So I worked in GIS, I work in remote sensing, but it's all geospatial. I think there are two really important things that are happening at the moment that are going to be massively impactful for the geospatial world. So for those that are not heads down on today and yesterday and are looking a little bit further ahead and thinking forward, these are the two things you need to be thinking about. I've spoken about generative AI in other talks. I've put posts out about ChatGPT. Now the importance of that can't be understated. One of the challenges that the geospatial industry's had is really sharing the value that geospatial data and technology can bring. Usually we're attached to maps. Certainly the GIS industry's been. People come to the GIS group and say, could you generate a map for me? And we generate 2D maps for those folks, and that's broad and more. We've got business analysts and other things which dig deeper into the technology, but maps have remained a core part of the offering of the geospatial industry. We've never really been able to provide people the ability to ask geospatial questions and get an answer out quickly without specifically thinking about a map, without requiring an analyst and a GIS team to be in the midst of that. There could be a remote sensing team as well. I'm talking about experts in the middle. I think generative AI and ChatGPT are really focused on automating the process of asking a simple question and delivering an answer. Again, I've used site selection in the past. It can be complicated, a very nuanced area, but if one is looking at, in retail, looking at where the best sites are for a particular Starbucks, for example, I always use that example, there's a complex process of data and analytics that go into finally delivering those ideal locations. Imagine that you had the ability to provide a commercial real estate, or someone that works for Starbucks in their real estate team, a simple interface like ChatGPT, which was able to answer that question and give them a map of the best locations for a new Starbucks. But not just a 2D map, potentially also a digital twin of those locations as well, so they can see in a digital reality way what those sites look like before they actually go out to them. So generative AI is going to be enormous in our industry because it's going to bring everyone into the fold to ask questions that they don't know anything about GIS or that's even a geospatial question. But we know by answering those questions, or rather ingesting that question, that it's something that we need to have geoprocessing the right data to deliver an answer to. So that's number one. That's huge, and that's happening right now. Go look at the number of jobs out there that are asking that people that know LLMs and generative AI. There are hordes of them. So there's a new industry evolving there. The other piece to this pie are these new interfaces, this Vision Pro that I've been talking about. So it's a computer in your eyes. Now Apple have released the SDK for that already. So it's not released till next year, but people are already beginning to build apps for that interface. And again, at the minute it's Hello World type apps, but that's going to get more sophisticated very, very quickly. So I don't think the adoption of those interfaces mass adoption is going to be here for 3 more years, but in terms of preparation, that starts today. So why is it so important in the geospatial industry? It's because we're bringing together the real and the digital worlds. We're merging them. So imagine the future where we have a pair of glasses on and I can look and I can get information about what I'm looking at. So I'm not only am I looking at that tree and there's something in the background that knows the location I'm looking at. I can attach that to an object, a tree, and can say it's an ash tree, it was planted at this time of the year, it's, whatever that data is about that. Well, guess where that data is coming from? It's coming from a geospatial source. Now, we don't necessarily have all of that data yet and that metadata, but we need to build it because that future is here now, it's coming. So again, if you look at the interest on Vision Pro and the number of people downloading the SDK and beginning to build things, it's already happening. Now the geospatial aspect, there's a lot of other conversations around this, around bringing sort of virtual interfaces and all that good stuff. I'm most interested in how the real world and the digital world combine, and again, that's fundamentally geospatial. So there are two enormous things that are happening at this very moment, and we can talk about them being miles down the horizon. I remember in 1995 people asked me, what's this internet thing? I can't afford to put marketing dollars into that. They weren't seeing where the future's going, and I caution you not to ignore this stuff, and I also think that the giant leap for the geospatial industry and geospatial data is about to happen. It's happening now, and unless you start looking at that stuff and thinking about that stuff, you're going to be left behind, because that's the new wave that's coming, and it's incredibly exciting, I believe, and it's going to completely change our industry. So be ready, be thinking about it. I'm doing a lot of work in the background thinking about those two particular areas. Biggest one I'll caution you on the finishing note is focus will be key. Focus will be key, and I'll touch on that in another talk. So thanks for watching. Enjoy Little England, and I'll do another talk soon.